Good morning together. And Colin, I really love listening to you. It's always such a joy. I want to continue to talk about ownership, what is the prize at this conference. I want to ask a question often asked. What is ownership? Well, we have a clear answer, right? Ownership is a bundle of rights, the right to use something, etc. But when listening to Colin, and also in the last weeks, I was thinking about this and was asking myself, is ownership also maybe just a mirror of the relation we have to our company? Maybe even a mirror of how we relate to the world? So is the concept of ownership somehow embodying the essence of our world relationship? It gets a bit philosophical here. I hope you allow me this, please excuse. But if we understand ownership, as it's commonly understood today, as domination over an object, the right to use it, to take the fruits out, etc., this presupposes that we perceive the world out there as not myself. If the world is if I am the world, ownership somehow doesn't make sense. So to say it a bit more philosophically, what we need in our consciousness is a subject-object split in order to be able to think about ownership, right? And of course, the Enlightenment 200 years ago debated this a lot, but if we follow the great philosophers Karl Jasper and Charles Taylor, we can trace back this kind of concept of the subject-object split to a period much, much earlier in human history, around 800 to 200 years before Christ. They call this period the axial age, the Achsenzeit, because after this time and before this time, the way we related to the world was radically different. Before that, humans experienced themselves as really, inseparably bound and embedded in a cosmic order. The world was, alive, mythical, even divine, not an object in that sense, and therefore it was also not ownable. To be an owner in that time maybe meant, to be a fiduciary of the pharaoh, of God, a manager, a steward. And now in the axial age, for the first time in human history, religious founders and philosophers arose like Confucius, Buddha, Socrates, the philosophers and, the prophets in Israel. They investigated, now all of them, suddenly the inner part of us, our inner world. And they started to distinguish between world and I. I'm not the world. The world is not me. The God is not in the world. Somehow the divine withdrew from the world and became transcendent. To a certain sense, you could say we were thrown out of paradise, right? And the great philosopher Taylor, who I mentioned, he calls this, I think it's a really nice expression, the great disembedding. So what is the philosophy, what is the kind of relationship of this disembedding? You all know it. Back then, exactly in that time, the Old Testament was written, and it says, subdue the earth. Mach dir die Erde untertan. A new relation, completely new relation to the world than before. What's the mirror in ownership? It is exactly in that time as well that the Romans codify the first time an individual, exclusive, legally ownership right. The world becomes an object, subduable, ownable. Now, fast forward 2,000 years, we have extensively cultivated that kind of split, right? This kind of split between ourselves and the world. We have created societies, machines, that give us the ability to control the outer world more than ever and better than ever. To speak with the sociologist Hartmut Rosa, we've made the world available to us. Now, paradoxically, this appropriation of the world, despite this kind of appropriation of the world, or maybe even because of it, the world seems to grow alien to us. We start to destroy it. We live in great cities, physically closer to each other than ever, surrounded by more people than ever, and yet we feel lonelier. We think we know more than nature than ever, and still we increasingly alienated from it, destroying it. We make corporate ownership, we commodify corporate ownership. We make it available to many people through anonymous stock markets, pension funds, and still fewer people feel ownership, leading to enormous, for example, the succession crisis. We have more owners in that sense, but less ownership. Hartmut Rosa says about this could be described as a withdrawal from the world, or an alienation. I ask myself, maybe, what does it mean? Is it maybe that this kind of axial shift, the split that we experienced as humanity, that this kind of shift isn't complete? Maybe it was a good step to, make a split, get rid of this connection to the world, to find ourselves. But now the question is, how do we re-find the world? If we heard the cello, if one cello string is played, the other one automatically resonates, vibrates, if it's the same string. So if we are connected to the world, we must be able to resonate with the world. And that's exactly the answer by Hartmut Rosa, resonance. How can this be done? He says, well, we must allow ourselves to be touched by the world, to be really transformed, and then respond and assume responsibility. So responsibility through resonance with the world. This could be really a new re-embedding without regression, as Taylor puts it. Now, the kind of ownership now that would mirror this new relationship would likely be described less as an commodified or ownership, a right to use, but probably something more like a caring relationship. A relational, resonant ownership. And I think it would take into account two principles. You can think about whether you agree or not. I think the first principle of such a resonant ownership would be that the kind of responsiveness and resonance of stewards, this requires proximity. A distant and absent owner can't be touched by the world, can't be transformed, can't take responsibility. So it's the principle of proximity or self-determination. And the second principle, maybe in such a world resonating ownership form, it would embrace the unavailability, for example, by decommodification, and thereby freeing our gaze for the problems of the world, for the touching points in the world. It would maybe create a new driver in us, a new motivating force. Not the ego that is capsuled and alienated from the world and just wants to do something for itself, but a resonance with the world, a world that motivates us. We could also say it's a form of meaning, a form of purpose, so the purpose principle. So a more resonant relationship to the world, I think, creates new insights, new knowledge, a foundation for free action. It enables us to act in the spirit of the world without being compelled by laws, by profit pressure, by impact targets, but because we are in genuine relationship to the world. In that sense, I wish us all a day full of resonance. Thank you.